So welcome. So this is specifically for Start With Yourself, formerly known as Santa Cruz Challenge participants, moving forward to offer you a way to get food as nourishment, food as fuel. And I am with Jennifer Brewer. So she owns Nourishing Nutrition. She's a local in Santa Cruz, although she has been, oh my gosh, worldwide. You had a Green Talk radio show, which was on for a long time. You've run online programs forever. She has clients, a lot of high-end clients down to LA, all the way to the East Coast. And you do anything from changing people's kitchens, makeovers, to and I know you have a very strong online business around menus, shopping plans, recipes, and just supporting people in how do you figure out how to shop in season? How do you get foods that taste good but that are healthy? That's the art, right?
That is the art. And the art, I actually also think meal planning is an art, because if you think about it, there's so many different dietary plans out there. And if you take like all of the dietary books, a lot of them are different, like what the philosophy is, but you will always meet somebody who has succeeded on that program. And the reason is because of the meal plan at the back. It's like, I almost feel like the dogma and stuff that is like all the rules is secondary to the fact that they help you plan your meals. Because when you're on a program like that, you can't help but plan your meals. So what I encourage my clients to think about is like, let's like get rid of all the rules, like all the strict stuff, and just plan our meals and go from there. Because when you know that you have healthy food in the fridge, when you know that you can make a healthy choice, it's just so much easier. I mean, we give ourselves a lot of flack for choosing unhealthy things. I feel like it's like I don't have any willpower, or I'm this, I'm that. Sometimes it's just that there was not anything healthy to choose, or the thing that was healthy to choose was actually not that delicious.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
that happens to me a lot. I'm gonna try green juice, and then it's nasty.
Right, or there's like celery and baby carrots only, and you don't even really like either one. And so anyway, it's like, it's about knowing what foods that are healthy will also be exciting to you, making sure you're well stocked, and then also just having some tips. So I'm going to share 5 foods and food groups that I am really excited about right now. We're in winter, and even though we live here on the beautiful central coast of California, and although it's been like really wintry and rainy, it's not super cold, so we're not dealing with what like they're dealing with in the Midwest or on the East Coast, but our body is like, it's still winter. So we want to choose foods that really nourish us. So should I just dive right in?
Yeah, dive right in. And so for this webinar, this is our first one, and we're doing this because we realized that a lot of our in-person classes, people, because of scheduling, can't get to. So we thought this would be a great way for, obviously people that are live here right now, and obviously you can watch the replay. But if you do have questions, go ahead and use the chat box. Feel free to ask us and we can interact with you. But otherwise, we will take questions on the Facebook feed.
Great.
Okay, so let's get started.
So feel free to ask questions as we go along, and then we might have time at the end we'll have like 40 minutes, right? So we might have time at the end for just like specific questions. Okay, so I'll dive right into my most favorite food for this time of year. Actually, probably my most favorite type of food for all year, but winter especially, because I like to put quotes around cold and flu season, but there really is no such thing as cold and flu season. What we have is a season where we eat too much sugar, don't get enough sunlight, and are super stressed, right? So it's like we're not outside as much. So, but there are a lot of colds and flus going around. I mean, it's like people are dropping like flies. So one of the best things you can do is add more fermented foods to your diet. So I really like raw sauerkraut. You have to make sure that it's raw, so you get that in like the refrigerated section. Kimchi is also really great. Miso is a soybean paste that has great ferment in it. And you can also do, if you do dairy, kefir and yogurt are of course great fermented foods. To be honest, like I'm a natural food chef and a whole foods nutritionist. That said, I actually feel, I don't know, I would love you to chime in here, but I actually feel like most people should be on a probiotic. I feel like it's that important. We are learning so much about the importance of a healthy microbiome it used to be that we knew that healthy bacteria was good for like preventing candida or helping us control sugar cravings or helping our bowels move effectively or helping us digest our food.
Yeah.
But what we're learning now about the microbiome is incredible. So you have something called the vagus nerve, which goes from your GI tract to your brain. And they're finding now that the quality of your microbiome influences the types of signals and the types of neurotransmitters that are going between the GI tract and the brain. So we're talking about actually like a healthy microbiome affecting your mood and hormone balance and blood sugar balance. I mean, it's like I feel like probiotics are the next big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going to start to see them added to all kinds of foods, but as we know, those are good, but the best way to get fermented food is in food that's naturally fermented. Like I saw a probiotic chocolate bar the other day, and I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but like it's still not going to be miso or sauerkraut. So, and I really like Udo's brand probiotics. So Udo makes a great Super 8 high potency probiotic, and it's got 8 strains in it. And that's the other thing. When you're doing probiotics, you want to include a variety of them because every one is a different strain. So like the strain in kefir is actually different than the strain in sauerkraut and the strain in yogurt. So you want to include a variety of fermented foods. So
I agree. And you know, if you're someone that's lactose intolerant, you can't do dairy and get your probiotic that way. When you're actually getting supplements, there are dairy-free probiotics. So also know that, but it's true. I mean, you want to get your acidophilus, you want to get your bifidus, you want to get, depending on your immune, 50 billion or more plus. But I would say, food first, and then when you need to supplement on empty stomach at the morning or at night, at least do a little bit mini course. I tell patients, even just maintenance once a week. Just get the little, supplement in and make sure that you're getting the variety of foods to get the different strains. So that's great.
And like you said, when you need it, and I feel like cold and flu season again is when we need it, or when you're traveling. Like when I'm getting ready to get on a plane, I am like front loading myself with probiotics that whole entire week. So when you need it, when you need them, you need them. But I also think we need them all the time. So fermented foods is the first one. The second food that I really want to highlight for winter are good fats. So fortunately, that whole low-fat craze has gone way out the door. I mean, I think that has done more harm for people's health than the dietary guidelines in general just suck, scientifically, but I feel like that one has probably done more damage than anything. Yes, you want to watch the type of fat you have, but winter is it's a building time. Like it's a time, we've had this conversation about how unfortunate it is that New Year's falls in January, because it's actually like one of the worst times to try to limit your diet. I mean, everything biologically in you is like, eat more calories, stay warm. And so a way you can deal with that and still stay healthy is by getting some good fats and making sure that they're whole and complete and satisfying. The other thing we know about healthy fat is that fat triggers a hormonal response. So we actually feel more, there's a word called satiety, which is basically how satisfied you are after eating. Not how full you are, not how how full your stomach is, but actually how your brain can just be like, I'm so relaxed. Which is why like a restaurant meal can be so satisfying, because usually the chef has put a lot of thought into making sure there's enough fat in that meal. So some of my favorite ways to get fat this time of year, obviously avocado and coconut oil are given, and I'm going to show you a really fun way to get coconut oil in chocolate form later. But also tahini. Tahini is sesame seed paste. You find it in the nut butter section. So basically whole sesame seeds that have been ground. It makes a wonderful salad dressing. It also makes like a really quick gravy. So if I'm like coming home and I'm super tired, I'll just take garlic and tahini and a little soy sauce in a pan and heat that up, and it just makes a really nice thing over grains or greens or something like that. And nut butters are also a great thing. to have this time of year. So I can't say enough about healthy fat, you know, all year long. But somebody said to me the other day, they're like, healthy fat is for the body what love is for the soul.
Ooh, I like that.
Isn't that great for
like
Valentine's? Because it's like, it's so nourishing, and it's so tonifying, and it's so like, it does a body. It's yummy, and it does a body good, you know?
Well, and Dr. Hyman, right? Was it Dr. Hyman? He just wrote the book, Eat Fat to Get Thin.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a response to the low fat, you know, decade or whatever that happened.
Right.
So, you know, more people, and it's great that, you know, obviously he's popular, that people are realizing you got to get the fat in. And even the bulletproof concept.
Yeah.
It's like, let's put a healthy fat in your coffee in the morning.
And that moderates the caffeine, just like it moderates the sugar if you're having any sugar, or it moderates a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is that it's just nourishing and satisfying.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm going to show you a fun way to use coconut oil later. The third food I want to point out this time of year is anything that is high in carotenoids. So the whole carotenoid family, like beta carotene is the most popular carotenoid. So we get it in carrots and winter squash. Yeah. But the carotenoids, there's like hundreds of them. And they're super important for keeping your immunity strong. So they actually increase your white blood cells, so you can, or your immunity cells. And so this time of year, I feel like Mother Nature is really great in providing us the foods that we need. Like when we eat in season, we're one step closer to taking much better care of ourselves. You know, seasonal vegetables, typically, if you look at their vitamin and mineral profile or the antioxidants that they have, they're usually right on par for what your body actually needs. You think about the foods that we eat over the summer, they're very like water rich. Right now, the storage vegetables that are orange, so sweet potatoes, winter squash, even carrots. Like I'm really digging on just having carrots braised. So you just put carrots in a pan, you can saute in a little bit of olive oil with just some red wine, maybe some soy sauce, and just put them in the oven at like 250 for like 2 hours. The whole house smells good. And then it has that taste, you know, like that pot roast carrot taste. So good. So just getting some carotenoids. I also really like to bake and roast sweet potatoes, and winter squash, of course, is really awesome. The other great thing about this particular class of foods, the sweet potatoes and the winter squash, is that they're starchy. And starch is also a very comforting mouthfeel, and it's comforting for your body. So having like some delicata squash that you've roasted with coconut oil, or some sweet potatoes, it's like you're eating healthy, but you don't necessarily feel it.
With a lot of ghee or grass-fed butter.
A lot of good fat, for sure.
Well, you know, Chinese medicine, I mean, we want you to eat in season, locally. So that's the whole concept of Chinese medicine. So it's like, it's really amazing when you do eat locally, you're getting what's in season.
Yes.
And part of me is like, you don't have to think as much. If you go to the farmer's market, you see what's available to you. And then not even understanding science or, you know, the stuff that we know, you're more apt to understand, okay, I know this is going to be somewhat good for me. Right?
I love what you're saying. It's like it eliminates a thinking step. So basically, like, I know your patients my clients are super busy. They don't necessarily have the time to figure out, I wonder if like this has all of my nutrient profile. When you eat in season and you eat locally, it's like stuff is figured out for you. The other thing, you mentioned Chinese medicine, and you know, one of the things that we learned in culinary school, because it was based on Oriental medicine, that I always remember are the energetics of food, and the way that it's grown is the effect that it has on your body. So right now, again, it's in this like storage, grounding time. So eating these foods that take a long, like winter squash and sweet potatoes, they take a long time to grow, they're storage, but that's the effect they have on your body. They're very grounding, they're very nourishing. They're not light and, like, that's summer. It's when you want to be like light and free. We actually want to be eating these foods that are dense and nourishing.
That's great.
Now.
I was relating to a patient yesterday. I mean, one of the reasons why bacon has become a part of like the breakfast is because it's a tonify yang, right? So it's energy that's available now. it's like yang energies, you know, it's very different. This is about building yin, right?
Yes.
Slower, building your reserves. And
Yes.
so it's really nice to understand that it is the energetic properties of the food that give you what you need. You need sustenance, but sometimes you need available. I always relate it to money. You have money in the bank, and then there's available funds.
Yeah,
right?
there's actually liquid money, and then there's storage money.
Exactly.
And so you need a nice balance.
Very same with the foods.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then speaking of starch, I mentioned that having like winter squash or sweet potatoes are nice because they're starchy and they give you that starchy feeling. I really want to talk about whole grains because I feel like there definitely is and the idea out there that in order to lose weight and be healthy, like you've got to eliminate grains entirely. And personally, what I see with my clients is that is a recipe for like not being satisfied. And actually, grains as a class are a group of foods that help produce serotonin in the body, just like protein does. So one of the things I recommend with my clients, I have a saying called intentional carbs or intentional grains. So in other words, you're in charge of when you put them in your diet so that you eliminate cravings and don't find yourself wanting like a bowl of ice cream. The reason that we crave carbs, like, you know, that breakup, like the breakup movie, they're always eating ice cream because it works. Like carbs, sugar and stuff makes you feel better. So when you're in control of the type of carb and the type of starch, it's gonna be a much easier way for you to like stay satisfied without succumbing to like eating a big bowl of something. So I like to put quinoa in my salads, actually. Like just you don't even need a lot, quarter cup, half a cup, but just that and is like, well, I got some starch, I'm feeling good, and I don't have to like snack on crackers later, right? Because a whole grain is completely different than a flour. So anything that's been made into a flour has, in most cases, lost a lot of its vitamins and minerals. And so oftentimes we succumb to these cravings of like floury foods, pretzels, chips, crackers, but we could have avoided that, in my opinion, by being more intentional with the way we eat carbohydrate. And even something like oatmeal, you know, I like this unsweetened oatmeal from Trader Joe's, but it's a much better snack than it is a breakfast. So you were talking about the importance of having like that really healthy breakfast. I think having protein for breakfast is super important. But, you know, as like in the afternoon, you know, that 3 o'clock slump, a lot of times it's because your cortisol is falling at that point and you need a pick-me-up. So I actually have my clients just making one envelope of this, putting in a little bit of walnuts and maybe some dried fruit for sugar. So it's unsweetened, there's no added sugar here. And that is something that can like get them through the day. And what's interesting is they eat a lot less carbs at night, right? Because they're not like, they don't feel deprived in any way. So that's what I mean by saying intentional carb. You're in charge of your carbs. And then the fifth food, which is actually like all year round food, but leafy greens. And I have collard greens here. And one of the things I really like to use collard greens for is as a tortilla replacement. I mean, tortillas are made from flour, not like the worst thing in the world, but again, you're just not getting as much nourishment. And there's something really good about like eating your food like a burrito. And so I'm always looking for a burrito replacement. So basically you would just cut off the stem and you could either steam this or blanch it. And these leaves are a little small, but it's nice when you get the big leaves because then you can just fill it with whatever taco filling you would make. You could just put it in this and wrap it. And you just want to make sure that it's steamed, like I said, or blanched because they're kind of hard to bite through when they're raw. And but when they're steamed, I mean, they just melt in your mouth. So it's a really great way to get leafy greens. And then of course, kale and all of those, chard, all of those this time of year is really great as well.
So quinoa, I mean, it's a complete protein.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I love and what I recommend to my patients is if you're going to do a grain, it's kind of nice to select quinoa because it is a complete protein. Right. So tell me, what about, like, I'm just curious, I mean, salt. Are you you know, I go back and forth of like, I want people to do the Himalayan pink salt.
Yes.
But I also want them to do sometimes the Celtic sea salt.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that my education was, is that we were taught that Himalayan pink sea salt will not raise blood pressure.
Okay.
And it's the only substance on the planet that has every mineral of the human body.
Wow.
So we have a whole class just on pink salt. Which is very interesting. So
yeah.
I'm curious, like the stuff that you learned. Did you guys learn like that you use pink salt at these cases, or
we didn't learn like different use of it. We were mostly taught that the pink salt is the way to go, and that actually because of that mineral profile, you use less salt than if you use the processed. And so that's gonna always be the way to go, is to use less salt, in my opinion. So that said, you also want to make sure, I mean, how many times have you eaten off a hot bar and you've been like, I need to introduce this chef to the salt shaker because this is not tasty. So you want to make sure that your food tastes good. But the thing about salt is it actually, the main flavor it offers is salt, if that makes sense. It's not like a spice that actually like opens up and expands. So one tip is that if you taste something, if you make like a soup or a stew and you taste it and it tastes flat, so that's the word I use in my cooking classes. It's just like, it's okay, but it's not like delicious or it's not like popping in your mouth. Actually try an acid before you salt it. So lemon juice, vinegar, an acid will actually bring out all of the flavor. Then you know what you're dealing with, and then you know how much salt to add. But all in all, I think it's just best to use less, but mostly I'm using the pink.
Yeah.
The pink salt.
I was just curious.
Yeah. Okay. So let me walk you through the recipe that is just in time for Valentine's Day and a really good way to get healthy fats. So basically, I'll just walk you through how you're going to make it. So you're going to take coconut oil and you're going to melt it. And so you need a half a cup of coconut oil, and then you are going to take that in a bowl and you're gonna whisk in a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. It could be regular cocoa powder or raw cacao powder will actually work really great too. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna like leave that for 3 to 5 minutes. And what that's called is bloom. So the cocoa powder blooms in the hot liquid and it like gets more and more fragrant. So, and more tasty as well. As if cocoa powder couldn't be any more tasty. I mean, I know, really. So you'll let it bloom, and then you're going to add a couple or a 1/4 cup of that raw almond butter, and then some sweetener. So you could use stevia if you're a stevia fan. I've never really liked stevia, I gotta be honest. Like I like the concept of it and what it is for your body. Taste wise, it's always like a little bit too bitter, but you could also do some stevia and like maybe maple syrup or something. It needs to be a liquid sweetener. But what I'd like to talk you into is learning to love molasses, because molasses is actually the byproduct of sugar making. So when they take it takes 30 feet of sugar cane to make 1 pound of sugar. And actually the sugar cane is a plant. Yeah. So it's like we hear like eat more plants, plant-based diet. Well, sugarcane is actually super healthy as it comes from the ground, but the processing of it removes all of its vitamins and minerals, and it all goes to molasses. So this is what sugar is supposed to be like. It's supposed to be this really dark kind of murky thing, but pastry chefs don't want that. So they make it really white and refined. So you get all of the B vitamins and all of the iron that is supposed to be in sugar when you use molasses. And actually, I find this recipe, because of the coconut oil and the cocoa, can actually take it. It's 1 tablespoon of molasses has 15% of your iron. So I mean, it's like you're eating something really, really good for you when you use molasses.
Well, from a Chinese perspective, what we learned in school is that we prescribe molasses. We actually have them do like a tablespoon every day, just straight up. Wow. When we have patients, of course, on the anemic scale, because we want them to build red blood cells. But anyone that really just needs to build, it's a blood tonic for us. So we always want people to do this every day if they can.
Nice. Yeah. I love that. Okay, I didn't know you were such a molasses advocate as well.
We need to be pusher.
We need to be push your molasses. I also really like molasses as a sweetener in coffee. You can also take it, and coffee replacements like Dandy Blend and Ticino.
Yeah.
So if you're doing at night, like you don't want to do the caffeine, but you want to like caffeine, like a coffee kind of taste, it's actually delicious.
Yeah.
It matches really well with the taste. You need something super strong.
That's true.
I mean, I can't believe. Do you have patients taking this by the tablespoon? That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're hardcore.
I mean, I'd much rather eat it in a chocolate.
No, of course.
So I actually use molasses in these, and then I also have, in honor of Valentine's Day, put in dried raspberries and walnuts, which of course walnuts are also a great source of fat. So maybe we could put this recipe on the Facebook page.
Yeah, let's do that.
Would be great.
Yeah.
So then you're going to. It's easiest to use like a liquid measuring cup, like a Pyrex, and pour the mixture of the cocoa powder, coconut oil, almond butter, and sweetener. Whisk that together. I actually put the walnuts and the fruit, or the dried fruit in here, in the little parchment, and then I pour it over top, and then freeze them. So do you want to try one?
Yeah, I'd love to try one. You know, I was just going to take out in my kitchen that we use, I'm just wondering if people know about the Dandy Blend.
Oh, yeah, please. So, oh my gosh, you got like industrial sized Dandy Blend. Mine's much smaller. This is delicious stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's an alternative to coffee for anyone that's interested. Based on chicory root. It's actually a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
right?
dandelion root,
dandelion,
which is great for your liver.
Really good.
And it's like, so you're doing something doubly good here when you, instead of like decaf coffee. Wait, yes, you're not taking the caffeine, but this is actually good for you.
Yeah.
And I love Dandy Blend with molasses and some creamer.
It's delicious, delicious. So we're gonna go over, actually later in our program, there is a upgrade your morning beverage class that we're doing.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we're gonna do that.
I see a marriage
yeah,
here.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. So these look amazing. So yeah, Jenny will put the recipe on in the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Right? Facebook page? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm excited to try these.
So one question.
Yeah.
This is, I take probiotics.
Great.
How do you add fermented foods into the diet?
Good question. So some of my favorite ways are more sauerkraut, miso. So miso is a fermented soybean paste. If you don't do soy, you can get chickpea miso. I think this is a really easy way because we're eating so many soups and things this time of year. So any soup can be miso soup. It doesn't have to be like the stuff you get at a Japanese restaurant. So if you're making a pot of soup, what you would do is you would take a serving out into a bowl, and then you would stir in a tablespoon of miso. The advantage there is that miso is it has a natural salty aspect, so you don't actually have to add a lot of additional salt. But miso is actually also rich in something called umami, which is our sixth sense. So you've got all of the tastes, like salty, sweet, bitter, sour, spicy. Yeah, but then you've got the sixth, which is actually, it's savory, I guess is what we would liken it to. But it's actually the same experience that MSG gives you, right? Yeah. So it's actually a glutamate is what's giving you the umami sound or the umami taste. So I really like having miso in my soup because it just makes it much more satisfying, especially if I'm eating something like lentil soup or something that I feel like needs a little more oomph.
So I have in my fridge some Siggies, and there's a couple different companies, but this is 1 billion probiotics per serving. So this is a non-fat drinkable yogurt, but it's kefir. So there's different kinds of kefir. What's the other company that we really like? Do you remember?
Oh, I know what like the goat milk kefir.
Yeah, goat milk kefir. So this is another way you could just do a cup or half a cup in the morning. But what about beet kvass?
Yeah,
so we could make beet kvass. It's really easy to make,
and we have some good companies in town like LeTa and Creative Cultures that have these fermented drinks. So that's a really easy way.
Drinks.
If you're running like by a New Leaf at 4 o'clock to pick up a snack, like I really think getting a fermented beverage is a great way to go.
I love that way. And in fact, later in this program, we're going to be learning how to make fermented beverages. So we're going to be hosting them.
And remember with fermented food that heat destroys it. So like when you're talking about eating sauerkraut, this isn't like you're cooking with it. It's more like you're putting it on top of something or after you've already made it, like a curry or vegetables or something like that. And I actually love having sauerkraut in my vegetables because it makes them taste really salty. And I mean, I really enjoy the taste of salt. So I'm typically looking for ways that I can get it beyond just like grinding the salt shaker like crazy.
No, that makes sense.
You mentioned kefir, and yogurt, of course, is another great way. Fermented foods.
So one of the things, that I really like about you, Jenny, is that, you've taught us that, one of the biggest takeaways for me is when you taught us in the last cooking class that you taught for the challenge was when I'm making guacamole, you mentioned if I add some beans to it, it's more like satiating, right?
Yes.
Like it's more, so instead of eating more chips and more guacamole, if you add some beans to it, then you eat less. Is that correct?
Right, because the beans are really high in fiber. So that when we were talking about the healthy fats giving you the satiety response, the fullness factor comes from foods that are actually pushing against your stomach, and that is mostly fiber based. So anything you can add to something, anything you can add that has fiber, and beans are one of your best sources of fiber. So I'm always looking for ways I can get more beans and lentils into things to make them more satisfying. The other thing about guacamole is alternate between a chip and a red pepper slice.
Oh, a red pepper slice. I didn't even think of that.
Because I do that in my cooking classes all the time. Like I'll set out like Mary's gone crackers and hummus and vegetables and hummus, and I'm not trying to, and I'm just like kind of watching. But like it's interesting how it's like if you're a cracker person, you just go for the crackers, and there's nothing wrong with crackers. But raw vegetables is where it's at. Yeah. I mean, it's all about getting more vegetables. So also look for ways. Because, I mean, to me, red peppers and guacamole is not quite as satisfying as the chip, but it's pretty dang close. Yeah. And I know that I've done so much better for my body.
Nice. Well, so these things you're going to get with Jenny if you join any Santa Cruz Challenge or Start With Yourself participant. You've been very generous in offering a month full of recipes and shopping lists and a meal plan for them to follow. And you're going to be learning things like this. Because I think that, most of us don't know, okay, if I add a little bit of fiber, it's going to help, So I just really appreciate that.
Sure.
So how are we going to let these participants know about how to sign up?
Great. So my website is nourishingnutrition.com. So if you go there with a /trial, you'll see a place where you put in your email, and that'll add you to the list to get my meal plan for 30 days. So you can try it out. Some of my clients are just printing out the shopping lists on Thursday afternoons, putting it in their purse, shopping over the weekend. They don't even look at the recipes until Sunday night. But then they're batch cooking, and I'm a real fan of batch cooking. So finding that time where you can make a soup, a salad, and a staple like a hummus or something like that, and then it's like the week it flows so much better that way. You can try that for a week or for a month when you go to that.
That's great. I love that. I love that. Wow, that's super helpful.
Okay, now I want to eat these.
You want to eat one of these?
Well, the thing I like about these is that it's like sometimes in the middle of the afternoon or something, I feel like I just need a little something. Yeah. And this is so satisfying. You don't need a lot of it. And it's interesting how I really believe there's a phenomenon with healthy whole foods that there isn't the need for more. Like you eat it and you're not like, oh, I gotta have more. It's like, wow, that was really satisfying with what it, with just what it is.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, I'm excited. So, we're going to post the recipe in case any of you out there want to try these.
Definitely want to try these.
This is great.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel, I like, part of me is like, I feel bad because people watching, but all those baking shows, they always eat right in front of you. And it's like,
I used freeze-dried raspberries from Trader Joe's, which are incredibly high in fiber, actually. And so remember, that helps keep you full. The good fats are like making us satisfied, and hello.
All right.
Make this for somebody you love like yourself.
Yes, on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, it is Valentine's Day. It's a Hallmark holiday, but Jenny and I decided that we're actually going to trek over to New Leaf in Capitola and do a Facebook Live and talk about some of the best products that we like from the local health food store.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you can join us. We'll post that on the Facebook page. But what I would say, you know, on your sponsor page for Start With Yourself, people can find your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn,
Great.
your website, how to contact you. So everything is on Nourishing Nutrition on your sponsor page on our website. So,
super.
Yeah, great.
Sounds good.
Well, we are so grateful that you tuned in. If you have more questions, we're going to be hearing from Jenny more throughout the program and making sure that you guys get what you need. There's also going to be some other food and nutrition classes throughout the program, but this is a great start to get you into what? Experiencing
healthy
Jenny.
whole food cooking too, like just getting back into the kitchen and making easy recipes that are really nourishing and use vegetables.
It's great. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day.